What advice would two of basketball's greatest legends give to a rookie who is already revolutionizing the sport? In addition to offering Caitlin Clark guidance, Reggie and Cheryl Miller left her with a message so impactful that it had her speechless. This message has the potential to drastically alter the course of women's basketball in the future. One chat between three basketball heavyweights rocked the WNBA to its foundation in a world where everything is magnified and every comment goes global. Nobody anticipated what transpired when WNBA rookie star Caitlin Clark got down with Reggie and Cheryl Miller, the brother-sister team that made basketball royalty. It was not a speech meant to inspire. There was no coaching going on. It was something far more profound. Such a profound message, Clark remained silent. The weight of what they told her caused her to simply freeze, not out of fear. These were no idle remarks made by two Hall of Famers. This was legacy addressing the future directly. Reggie and Cheryl gave Caitlin Clark the emotional blueprint for greatness, and she's not the same player since. They didn't simply talk about basketball. Remembering Reggie and Cheryl Miller's identities is important. The Indiana Pacers' clutch king is Reggie Miller, 18 seasons, more than 25,000 points, among the most lethal marksmen the NBA has ever seen. He defined pressure rather than merely playing the game. Madison Square Garden, it was his home. Miller, Cheryl, before Caitlin Clark was born, she was scoring 105 points in a high school game, 2 NCAA championships, Olympic gold, one of the few women who could compete on the court with the finest men. She is arguably the greatest female hooper of all time. Both of them are aware of pressure. They are familiar with celebrity. They are also aware of what occurs when skill meets expectations. When did they sit Caitlin Clark down and provide that message that detonated silently? It was more than just guidance. The torch was being passed. According to insiders, their discussion was less about statistics and all things related to the soul. How to make it through the turmoil of fame. How to maintain your why in a world where everything is about what. How to get up without losing who you are. They discussed ignoring the commotion, maintaining perspective, and understanding that legacy is created in moments of decision rather than in a single season. Clark, too. She heard it. She sensed it. It altered her. Caitlin Clark has improved since that encounter. What's her game? Sharper. Her concentration, unwavering. Her command superior. Not only is she guiding the Indiana Fever to the postseason, with attendance, records, arenas packed out, and a cultural revolution in women's basketball that has never been witnessed before, she is carrying the league on her back. She is now approaching it with a different perspective, one that has been influenced by the Millers' guidance. This was more than just a discussion. That incident had the potential to change the course of women's sports forever and reverberate throughout Caitlin Clark's career. The room did not respond when Reggie Miller spoke. Not a single gasp. No cheers, nothing but quiet, and no amount of cheering could have overshadowed that silence. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't being treated like a rookie at that very moment. Fans weren't praising her as a favorite. They were warning her. The audience is already in your favor. The easiest thing is that. Now, every day, when no one is looking, when everything hurts, and when the cacophony subsides, strive to win yourself. Cheryl leaned closer. Do you believe this to be pressure? Await their expectation that you will lead the sport each night. You must be prepared to carry history as well as play. Caitlin did not give a nod. She didn't flinch. She simply looked straight ahead, taking in every word as if it were sacred. The incident was not caught on film. However, its effects are already changing the course of her destiny. People seem to overlook that Clark's quick ascent wasn't without setbacks. The anticipations, the headlines, the detractors, the transition from NCAA greatness to a failing WNBA franchise was never going to be easy. However, the Millers gave her a survival strategy rather than a pat on the back. This had to do with longevity, about continuing to be hungry when your name is already well known, about not being sucked up by the fame machine that has sucked up so many people before her. We frequently discuss three-point percentages, assists, and points per game. What about emotional stress, though? How much does it mean to be a symbol? Clark is no longer merely a rookie. She is a force, a brand, a representative of the following generation, and even the strongest begin to crumble when that identity begins to tug against the unadulterated human inside. The Millers were shielding her from that, no harm. Maintaining streaks, burnout. However, identity crisis. When a youthful celebrity turns into a commodity, there is a silent collapse. She wasn't being prepared for the upcoming season. They were getting her ready for the upcoming decade. The most gifted players occasionally burn out for a reason. Skills aren't always important. It's about mental armor sometimes. About being aware of your identity in the absence of illumination. You have to play your game, not the game they expect you to play. Reggie advised Caitlin. This implies that you should disregard praise as much as you disregard hate. The only people who possess that kind of wisdom are those who have experienced the fire. There will be times when the world will love you until you miss one shot. Cheryl continued. One quote that has been misinterpreted. One choice they disapproved of. You cannot survive on their praise. That counsel had a deeper impact than any coaching exercise could. Following the private meeting, a change occurred, not in Clark's performance, but in her demeanor. She began arriving early. To be by herself on the court, not merely to shoot about, she began questioning veterans in addition to coaches. She ceased responding to social media posts. The chirps, the detractors, the analogies, it had clicked. She appeared to have had the invisible armor placed over her shoulders. It wasn't a dramatic change, it was grown up. This wasn't a particularly noteworthy event, this was a transformation. ESPN insiders also observed the change. She was dubbed veteran-minded by commentators. She started speaking in interviews with less emotion and more purpose. She ceased providing narratives and responding to baited inquiries. It was evident in her play as well: smarter passes, fewer forced shoots, and improved pace. All of a sudden, Caitlin Clark was in charge of the game rather than merely responding to it. The fan base took note. Once more, jerseys began to fly off the shelves. The cost of tickets increased. This time, though it went beyond hype, respect was at issue. Cheryl and Reggie Miller are more than simply historical figures. They serve as real-life illustrations of what it means to endure over time. To change, adjust, and continue to be renowned long after your last buzzer. Caitlin Clark did not receive a shooting instruction from them. It was a masterclass in fame management psychology. Talent is more common than that. That is worth more than skill, because in today's game, you get in by having talent. But mental acuity, when the noise level becomes too high, that's what prevents you from leaving again. She didn't alter her strategy. She had a shift in perspective. Furthermore, that poses a greater risk than any jumper. Other players also took notice. According to teammates, Clark has been speaking up more during practice, more cautious with her rookies, greater authority on the court. Instead of making fun of her, her detractors now show her respect. Her poise is now praised by veterans. She plays like someone who has been in the league for 5 years, not 5 months, according to the coaches and admirers. A unique story is being witnessed by fans, a prodigy's story changing in real time. Just in front of us. Let's be truthful. There is more to Caitlin Clark's experience than just the game. It has to do with leadership, how to handle the spotlight without becoming blinded by it, about turning potential into actuality. You're not just an athlete, the Millers told her, something that most rookies don't realize until it's too late. Every day you are a narrative being written. Make sure the ending pleases you. We no longer believe that this is the Caitlin Clark we knew. The leaders who anticipated her destiny before she did have redefined her as a leader. The jump shot, turnover rate, and plus minus are the performance indicators that most rookies concentrate on. However, Caitlin had started a new activity, something that few have yet to notice. With the same level of accuracy as her three-point shooting, she began to develop her off-court persona. Sponsorships were treated with more consideration. Her public remarks became planned and measured. Social media evolved from a highlight reel to a platform for leadership and presence. One Nike representative who closely followed her brand development stated, "She's beginning to understand her voice matters off the court. She's evolving beyond her role as a baller. She is turning into a movement. On the court, an absolute superstar, a strategist off it." That type of supremacy is uncommon. Behind the scenes, a newly formed personal staff was arranging her meetings with media consultants, financial advisors, and medical specialists. Can you guess who assisted her in creating that blueprint? Cheryl Miller. You must safeguard your finances, your health, and your sanity. That's how you survive. Too many athletes have to learn this lesson when their stardom wanes or they suffer an accident. However, she was acting on the insight that Clark was gaining early. She started writing in her journal. It's about life, not just basketball. Choices, connections, have faith, pressure. She is self-scouting according to a close confidant, and that's risky in the best way possible. Her impact on the outside grew along with her inner world. Her post-game statements were being quoted by young girls who were no longer merely copying her jump shot. In addition to showcasing her highlights, high school coaches began playing her interviews in class. She was merely Iowa's face. A few months ago, she was now subtly taking on the role of a generation's voice. When questioned about her performance at a post-game Q&A, she paused and decided to discuss athletes' mental exhaustion instead. I think it's acceptable to acknowledge that we get fatigued occasionally. Not all of the time does that pressure feel like a luxury. It's just hefty at times. The video became viral. Not for a dunk, a buzzer beater. No, but for an instant of unvarnished, unreserved truth. It wasn't on the court that was the actual event that went viral. It happened when she dropped her defenses. What could be more remarkable? Clark started looking for guidance outside of basketball. She made contact with female politicians, writers, researchers, Olympic sportsmen, even CEOs. She wanted to be a wonderful person in life, not simply a great basketball player. She had asked a female software entrepreneur, How did you handle being underestimated in rooms full of men twice your age? According to a leaked email, the response and a lunch meeting came swiftly. She was taking in knowledge from all walks of life. She was discovering that the key to success in whatever field was always the same: discipline, attention, humility, and resilience. She was eager to absorb everything. Greatness is never attained by one person alone. And Caitlin was starting to accept that at last. She was now constructing a personal infrastructure around herself, just as she trusted her comrades during fast breaks. Dietitians, coaches for sleeping. Publicists who focused on creating lasting impact rather than just making noise. One squad member declared, "We're not planning for the next season. We have 10 years of planning ahead of us." It was no longer about eye-catching headlines. The goal was to establish consistency. She was after eternity rather than being a one-season sensation. She isn't merely trying to get rings, she is competing for a spot in history. Her connection with the league itself saw maybe the most significant change. While many gamers solely concentrate on their game, Caitlin started politely and discreetly advocating for change. She initiated discussions on schedule conflicts, novice support systems, and travel circumstances. Press conferences weren't where she was doing it. She was meeting with league executives in secret to do this. One official said, "She asked us questions that no rookie had ever asked us before." It was polite interruption, not rebellion, and it was successful. According to reports, the league is implementing a mentorship program that pairs up players with veterans for the upcoming season. Based on her suggestions, it will not be made public. However, insiders are aware that Caitlin Clark was the driving force behind that campaign. When she becomes a legend, he won't wait to switch the league. She is now altering it. Brands, media organizations, and international scouts have started to show interest in Caitlin Clark. After realizing that she could be the next global celebrity, as well as America's, her interviews are now being localized by translation agencies. Around her, Nike has started creating a global sneaker campaign. Her name has been added as a priority draw for WNBA Asia visits. What about the terrifying part? She is just getting started. She received a path for global impact from the Millers, not just momentary enlightenment. That wasn't Caitlin. One of her teammates was heard saying during a practice scrimmage last week, her jersey belonged to someone else. She had more acuity. Relax, quicker, not only physically, though in the mind, on an emotional level, in a strategic manner. This is a unique real-time evolution that we are seeing. It's the journey, from novice to superstar. Everyone anticipated that she would be the center of attention. Nobody anticipated that she would reinvent the stage.